Good morning, and thank you for joining our Apple Quality Summit. My name is Brian Correa. I'm the West Coast Regional Agronomy Manager for Hazel Technologies. I'm based in our new Fresno, California Research and Innovation Center. Hazel Technologies is a USDA-funded company that offers new solutions for fruit and vegetables to extend shelf life, improve sales, and reduce food waste. We hope that today's event is beneficial to you and to your operations. The summit today will feature 3 presentations. They'll be given by a group of 5 industry experts. Our speakers today include global market analysis expert, the founder and president at Belrose Incorporated, Dr. Desmond O'Rourke, leaders in quality apple production for quality control at River Valley Fruit, Art Valera, the owner of Burnham Orchards, Joe Burnham, and the owner of Peace Valley Orchards, Dano Simmons. Also joining us will be post-harvest technology specialist, Hazel Technologies Director of Business Development for AgTech, Mario Cervantes. The Quality Summit is translated into Spanish, so please utilize the translation option at the bottom of your screen to hear the translation if needed. Once the presentations are finished, we'll have a Q&A session. If you have any questions during the event, please type them into the Q&A box. Before we begin, please enjoy this short video on Hazel Technologies.
In the 1930s and 40s, my grandma and grandpa started farming on their own, had apple orchards and other farms. My dad, my 2 uncles have worked on the family business. There's a legacy there that is one of the reasons why I'm here. You want to keep that going for, my kids, their kids. There's a history behind it.
The apple category has always been really important to us at Hazel Technologies. In the US, it's the most eaten fruit. It's a huge market. In the US alone, there are 7,500 commercial apple growers. We know that if we really want to make a dent in food waste and really make this produce supply chain more efficient, we need to have solutions for the apple space.
The quality of fruit is definitely important because there are obviously other people that grow and pack and sell apples. So we have to differentiate ourselves by having a better quality and a better looking apple.
Hazel Technologies has a full portfolio of products for the apple category. It starts with Hazel CA, which is our take on the classic fogging treatment for apple storage rooms. Our philosophy on that treatment is that although it is very important, it's just one piece of the puzzle. What we've come to the market with is a very economical and effective solution for fogging apple storage rooms. Hazel Technologies is easy to use, labor efficient, and academically tested.
Now, the benefits of using Hazel are for increasing the storage time of our fruit. Without it, we would have to get the fruit packed and out a lot quicker, but this gives us the ability to extend the storage time 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, up to a year.
Hazel 5-gram is a really unique and effective technology for the apple industry, and a lot of apple growers are rapidly adapting this technology.
We definitely see a reduction in the amount of fruit we're throwing away. The Hazel product allows us to serve more customers, more markets, domestically and around the world. So there is less food waste. It's beneficial to everyone from grocery stores to farmers markets to schools. We have a responsibility to our family, to our employees, and to the world to grow great fruit.
Good morning, my name is Desmond O'Rourke, and today I want to talk to you about the world apple market and the market in the US and in Washington State. A few of the topics that we'll cover are the trends in these markets and also the sorts of pressures that they're facing from outside forces. This first chart on the left shows you the world apple production, how it grew fairly rapidly until about 2014, and it's been relatively flat since, mainly determined by the growth of the production in China. The chart on the right-hand side shows you how exports have fared. Exports also rose fairly steadily until about 2017, and they have fallen since that. This chart shows you the export trends. First of all, on the left is the share of the world production that's been exported. You can see that's a generally downward trend. And the right-hand chart shows you the average export prices. Again, fairly flat in current terms, but in deflated terms, you can see from the orange line that there's a slight decrease in world export prices. This shows you the picture with the US Apple industry. As you can see, between about 2008 to 13, the US Apple industry production was moving in a pretty flat line. It then moved upwards and moved in about 1 to 2 million pounds more in total production. And the same was reflected in the chart for the fresh sales. Again, the fresh sales moved up pretty much as the total production moved up. This was largely because some of the major producing states like Michigan, New York, and Pennsylvania that were very heavily involved in apples for the processed market became much more focused on the fresh market. You can see for each of those, there was a very substantial increase in the last 10 years. Washington, of course, remains very high at close to 80% of its production each year going fresh. This is a chart that I've developed based on the volume of apples, the price of apples, and the price of all foods. And it shows you how the real retail demand in the US peaked about 2015 and has been on a downward slope ever since. This chart shows you what's happened with the Washington state. Again, it mirrors a little bit what's happened at the national level. The peak was in 2014, when 91.6 million boxes fresh were sold in the domestic market, and about 50.6 million were sold in the export market. And that really was the peak in exports in 2014-15. By 2020-21, this current season, I project that the domestic sales will be about the same as they were in 2014, but export sales will have fallen by about 40%. Again, reflecting the tougher conditions in the world market. This shows you the trend of Washington average FOB prices. Again, in current terms, the upward trend is fairly significant, but when you deflate, you can see that the prices were, the peak prices were fairly flat really between 2012 and 2021. Much of this reflects the deteriorating global trade environment. And the long-term globalization has been in retreat. China, Russia, and Iran and other countries want managed trade, and the World Trade Organization has lost its effectiveness in trying to free ag trade. So those are some of the long-term trends. There are also some terms that are short-term. I hope they're short-term. One is that there's a global debt crisis looming. The stronger US dollar has made US exports more expensive. The COVID pandemic has erected many barriers to movement. Hopefully they will end as the pandemic fades. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has disrupted not just the European trade, but also trade around the world. And from the domestic side, neither President Trump nor Biden have been keen promoters of freer trade, particularly in agricultural products. Turning now to the US Apple industry, there have been some major changes both in structural conditions and in products. We now have fewer larger operators using much greater capital intensity, increased outside ownership, so it's no longer pretty much locally based. Costly innovations have been introduced in orchards and packing houses. There's now a movement to promote corporate brands within the industry. And cooperation in production and marketing now extends not just across states, but across countries as well. On the product side, the mainstream varieties have been waning and exports have been struggling. The 60% of all Washington exports are low price Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, or Gala. On the positive side, Honeycrisp is still growing. The organic share is expanding a little more slowly, and there are now many new club varieties being offered to the public. On the other hand, retailers are beginning to resist the variety proliferation with all these new club varieties. Some of the external pressures on apple suppliers have become more intense. Retailers have long demanded sustainability, traceability, and all sorts of other abilities But now they want comprehensive policies for the environment, sustainability, and governance, which are much more demanding. Consumer activists' demands keep growing. They keep moving the bar, what they demand from agriculture. The Food Safety Modernization Act is now about to be applied across the board, adding more costs. And suppliers now must also deal with the bricks and mortar stores, as well as with online ordering, home delivery, what is known as omni-channel marketing. There's also difficulty with cost and availability of inputs. You're all familiar with the problems that are listed on the left-hand side there: shortage of key materials, supply chain disruptions, transportation challenges, both in cost and availability. The trade barriers remain in place that have been set in place over the last few years. We have still port congestion, particularly in the West Coast, and it's now possible we will have a West Coast strike in the next few months. And there are dramatic increases in production costs, which are shown on the right-hand chart there. Year to year, through March 2022, fertilizer prices were up 66% and fuel prices almost 60%. Big increases in prices for machinery and chemicals, and also increases in prices of autos and trucks. The cost of living, which farmers like everybody else must bear, are up about 8.5%. And one that I could draw attention to is the wages. The USDA figures suggest that wages are up 2.3%. Many people in the food industry might consider that estimate to be low. On the other hand, in the marketplace, consumers are still in shock, really, from all that has happened over the last 2 years. The food choices have continued to expand as more and more new produce items, particularly, are brought into the marketplace, and quality expectations become much higher for all products. The activist consumers are much more questioning of suppliers' behavior. The market is changing as the traditional households with a married couple and 2 kids is now a small minority of total households, and the newer formats of houses are much more difficult to predict, particularly with blended households. Food shopping is evolving. The consumers have adopted quite rapidly to online shopping, although not quite as much in produce as in many other items. But we are moving much more to home delivery, pickup of pre-orders, and it really is unclear where this trend will end. For the apple industry, the pandemic did induce buying of packaged goods rather than bulk produce. So more and more of our apples are being put up in 2, 3 pound or 5 pound packs. Some of the challenges that lie ahead: the export market, more barriers that need to be removed. The geopolitical hostility, particularly with China and Russia, is causing problems in the marketplace. More and more competition on prices and more competition overall. And at the same time, in the export markets, there's limited demand for higher priced club varieties or for organics. Within the domestic market, per capita consumption remains sluggish. There are more retailer demands on suppliers, and rising costs from the Food Modernization Act will also cause problems. We also face more complex production and packing systems that are demanding ever more capital. So I see us facing what is known as the classical cost price squeeze, where costs are tending to rise, but demand is not driving prices up at the same pace. I also see more structural changes ahead as the industry tries to adapt to this cost price squeeze. So only the most savvy and efficient will survive. But at the same time, there continues to be opportunity for apple demand to be revived. The best opportunities for growth, as shown in some of the earlier slides, are in the North American market. Their apples are second only to bananas in frequency of purchase. So we already have a pretty established customer base. But the industry needs to get back to marketing fundamentals. That means having the right product at the right price with the right promotion. The right product means tailoring your product to meet the needs and the wants of different consumer segments. We need to strengthen demand among the under 40s, middle income households, African Americans, and households with kids. Those tend to be the households that currently have the lowest per capita consumption of apples. one good example of a new product that is tailored for kids is the Rocket miniature apples that have been very successful. Another issue that we need to deal with is making organic apples much more affordable. Many consumers have a conflict between their social conscience and the high price of organics. They'd love to buy organics, but they can't afford it. And really, lastly, we need to promote apples as fun, tasty, enjoyable snacks. The key really to our future for apple demand is to promote, promote, promote. We have to keep telling our story to the world because so many other competing products are telling their story. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Dewar, and I'm the Director of AgTech Sales here at Hazel Technologies. Thank you very much for participating in our Apple Perspectives panel. It's a pleasure to have three different members of the Apple industry joining us here today. Art Varela, Quality Control at River Valley Fruit. Joe Burnham, owner of Burnham Orchards, and Dano Simmons, owner at Peace Valley Orchards. Today we'll be discussing quality, variety, and variability in the apple category as they prepare for the 2022 season. With the US apple season soon upon us, I look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts on the upcoming season. Art, let's go ahead and start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about River Valley Fruit and what quality means to your organization?
Quality is number one in our priority here. Without quality, obviously, you're not going to have a good market. We've been in production under River Valley Fruit. We just changed the name 2 years ago. It was Conrad and Adams, and that's been 15 years approximately in production. We have company growers, and plus we have private individual growers. And we deal with cherries, apples, plums, and pears now. But that's where we're at right now. Looking forward to this season and the challenges that it's going to be bringing.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Joe, here's a similar question. Could you please tell the audience a bit about Burnham Orchards and what best practices you implement to ensure premium apple quality?
Right. So Burnham Orchards, I'm the actual sixth generation to be on the farm, and we have about 200 acres of apples, 12 acres of peaches. Blackberries are about 6 acres and a few other things. We also do row crops, and we have a retail farm market and a cider production facility. So we have a lot of different enterprises going on, but to I guess quality obviously is important in all the aspects of our wholesale part, our retail part. So obviously you try to do steps to grow the most premium quality that you can. Obviously Mother Nature can step in and wreak havoc with that, but obviously one of the things that we have done over the past couple of years is using your product, and Hazel Products has definitely been an asset in how we manage storage and quality of the fruit at storage and after.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Dano, last but certainly not least, Dano, tell us about Peace Valley Orchards and how you've continued to guarantee the quality at your orchards.
We are, I'm a third generation fruit grower at Peace Valley Orchards, and we've got about 110 acres of apples and 20 acres of peaches. And we too have a retail market. That's pretty well the scenario in Ohio. Most people have wholesale and retail. We belong to a marketing group. I belong to the same marketing group as Joe does, Fruit Growers Marketing Association, for our wholesale products. And our about the same as Joe. For post-harvest quality control, we use every bin of apples that's picked gets the Hazelton product put in it, and we've noticed a much better result than we have from other 1-MCP products because of the continued release in the storage. There's a much greater holistic effect for the entire storage as opposed to individual bins. So I've noticed on and the regular storage that we put in as opposed to the CA storage that where we've used the Hazelton product, that it's we've gotten much greater retention of pressure on the fruit than we have ever in the past. So
perfect. Thank you, Dano. Yeah, and the Hazel sachet is certainly, with the ease of use and that the slow release, have definitely benefited a lot of apple packers, just like you guys. Dano, when it comes to post-harvest technologies, are there any other technologies that you use to assist with your fruit quality besides the Hazel sachets?
We have controlled atmosphere storages. We have about 30,000 bushels worth of controlled atmosphere storages. But because of the frost damage that we've taken the last 2 years, we've only used we have a 20,000 bushel room and a 10,000 bushel room for our controlled atmospheres. And we've only used the 10,000 bushel room because of 2 years now. We've had frost damage and reduced crop, but we've also had we've kept fruit until April. We've kept Golden Delicious until April at 14 pounds pressure with nothing but the Hazelton product on it. And I got to tell you, we've had difficulty keeping Golden Delicious in our CA rooms with that pressure in April. So I'm not completely sure that isn't for short term as opposed to short term CA into January. I'm not sure that the Hazelton product isn't as good or better than a CA room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you, Dano. Art at River Valley, what are some of your go-to post-harvest solutions?
Well, I won't mention the other company that we do a lot of business with. Sure. We are starting to really become firm believers in your product. We're kind of shifting gears to your product now. A couple of the big things that I think really promote your product. It starts acting immediately, and I'm talking about Ben sachets. It's immediate. With the other fogging applications, you could take 3-4 days to fill up a 2,500 Ben CA room, and you can't shoot it until then. Well, your fruit's warm, it's respirating, it's maturing. Your product, it gets hit immediately. Another bright spot, and here this comes back to linosol irritation. Fogging, you have a residual residue that is on those apples. With your product, you don't have that. So those are really bright spots about the Hazel sachets. Unfortunately, we still have to use some fogging, fungicide fogging, that as of yet, nobody's come up with anything else yet. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Joe, I know you mentioned earlier that you're also using the Hazel bin sachets. What are some other additional post-harvest techniques that have benefited your operations?
I mean, we obviously use CA as well, and then manage the fruit on the tree sometimes with retain. That kind of dovetails into storage as well. It does assist your storability, but as kind of Dano alluded to, it's for us using the Hazel product has simplified the process. And as Art said, getting the product on immediately is, or well, you see it in the results. It makes a lot of sense, and it performs. But really, I mean, that's kind of the two things. We don't have any of the or the newer CA where they use super low oxygen. We don't have rooms capable of doing that, but
Sure.
So that's pretty much what we do.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. So to follow up, Joe, will you please share some of the different varieties you guys grow at Burnham Orchards and some of the variety-specific challenges that come with ensuring premium quality?
So we actually have probably 30 varieties at our farm. Obviously, some of them are not. There's not much volume, but obviously, Honeycrisp is one of the main varieties, and Gala, Fuji, Macintosh. We still have some Red and Golden Delicious. Obviously, Honeycrisp is challenging to grow in general with fruit quality issues, tree growth, etc. Typically, the demand for Honeycrisp is really strong, and so we pack and ship them or sell them, retail or pick your own in the fall. And we're really not trying to store Honeycrisp very long. So, I mean, we will use some of the sachets on some Honeycrisp to keep them a little bit longer, but the great volume of them are sold sooner. Obviously, Gala is one that benefits greatly by using the sachets. And like Dano said, Golden Delicious, we've seen great effect putting sachets in, and then CA, and then some of the bins we've had a couple of years ago were out of CA for 3 or 4 months, and they were still almost the same pressure as when we pulled them out of the CA.
Wow!
So we're very very impressed with the effect. So,
okay, thank you. So we at Hazel love to talk about innovation. Dano, are there any new innovations you can share that's happening at Peace Valley Orchard, like automation, labor solutions, food safety, sustainability?
Obviously, everybody's trying to advance technologically. We have a compact grader, defect sorter, that type of thing, for saving of labor and advancing, the better pack out. As far as storage technologies go, we really haven't changed anything since we got the Hazelton product. Was the newest advancement on that. We are in Appalachia, not very far from Pittsburgh. So, you know, we've switched, you know, obviously we still have one block of trees that's a freestanding 16 by 24 planted block of trees. So it's, you know, all of our new plantings have been on trellis, and we don't go the complete tall spindle because of our location. We're still planting trees 5 foot apart on trellis, but we don't have irrigation. So with our location, even though we have the large amount of rainfall in the spring and the summer, we get quite dry. So it's just, you know, we also have, we're land rich. So we have quite a bit of land. We can spread the trees out and still get the production per acre. So we're not concerned with planting them as compact as what some of the researchers tell us. You know, we're using the pruning platforms and trying to do all of that for you know, what they've told us to do. We've upgraded our pruning practices to reflect the better light emissions. We're just starting with the row reflective coverings on the rows at harvest time to try to increase the color. We haven't done anything with leaf shear yet, but that is another thing that we're trying to look into. And there's a group in New York called Reality Research, and they've been giving us an awful lot of ideas for growing practices on how to increase our fruit set and our quality. So that's where we're paying attention to everybody. We're also involved with the Midwest Apple Improvement Association for coming up with new varieties and that type of thing. So we're looking ahead. Whether we're actually getting there or not is another question, but we're looking that way.
Forward thinking. I like to hear it. Art, we were talking a little bit off camera about the weather in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. Could you share kind of the challenges that you guys in the Pac Northwest have faced regarding the recent weather patterns, and also what is your outlook for the 2022 season, in particular for exports in the domestic markets?
Me personally, I've seen a weather trend that's really become noticeable approximately the last 6 years, where it's been cooler, it's been windy, and these times are happening during our pollination. So, and this year is probably the worst ever that I've seen. I've talked to our field men. That's their opinion also. We've talked to the pest consultants, and that's their opinion also. It's been extremely windy this year. I talked earlier about it. We had a day, approximately 24-hour period, where it was 30, 35 constant wind, which is abnormal. And in that period, that was just a constant. We had wind gusts that got up to 50 miles an hour. And we have our pens stacked up, secured down, and a couple of those went flying. So that's very windy here. This year, today, it's probably about 20 miles an hour constant. And here it's already May 18th. We had some snow during pollination, wind machines, everything going, and there's snow on the ground. Very, very abnormal. And with that, it's going to cause problems. We're already seeing problems here in the cherries. Those usually start in about May 28th, give or take a few days. We're talking maybe at least a week later now. There's lost pollination there. We're going to know a lot more here in probably by the end of next week, how severe it's going to be. This also now reflects also on the apples. We're getting the same thing. We lost, and I just found something out today that I wasn't aware of. The tree naturally has a period in there where, for lack of better words, it's kind of like breeding, where it's open to the pollination and stuff. And once that period is over, it shuts down to that. It doesn't, let's say you got 2 or 3, 5 days of this weather, and that's right in that time frame. Well, afterwards, you have some really beautiful weather, the tree's not going to be receptive anymore. So here we lost some king buds. They're saying probably 20%. And that's a rough guess because apples are still a long ways away. But we'll know here in 2-3 weeks what the damage. They're one of the big issues they're having to really deal with right now is thinning. You can chemical thin, and that doesn't discriminate. You're going to thin it, or you can go hand thin, which is very, very expensive. The bigger growers, they can spend that kind of money. The small growers, they're going to get hurt. So it's a long way to apples right now, and there's a lot of different things going on. And I talked about our fires here, and that's another Pandora's box, for lack of words, that we're been talking with the State Department, WSU, about some studies and how that those fires, because they're so numerous here, that there is a density in the air of the smoke. Well, that density is getting on the apples, and like I talked about earlier, that you have the ash on the apples. Well, ash and water create an acid, so now you're going to irritate the lenticels on those apples. That's another issue that we have to deal with. So, but they haven't done a study yet. They've been looking into it. Hopefully they'll do something this year. This year, unfortunately, is gearing up to probably be another very bad fire season for Washington State, for the Northwest, for that matter.
Wow. Thank you for that. That's unfortunate. Joe, so what's ahead for Burnham Orchards in 2022?
Oh, well, we're just trying to keep up with everything. We had a pretty big crop last year, and probably didn't manage our crop load as well as we should have, and so our return bloom was light on some things. So, but we're still optimistic. We try to plant a certain percentage of our orchard ground every year. We did rotate out a pretty big chunk of some older planting of Red Delicious, Jonathan, and Golden Delicious. But we've planted quite a bit over the last decade, really. And we're utilizing the newer planting systems, as Dan alluded to. We've been doing high density for quite some time, but just tweaking some of the things we do as we learn. And we've tried different root stocks, some of the Geneva series root stocks, but I still kind of go back to liking what Bud 9 does because it's so precocious. It's more of learning how to manage the tree to get it tall. before you crop it. Whereas some of the other Geneva varieties, they seem to, for us, they grow a little bit too much, and then they struggle to set fruit, is what we've noticed. So that's a concern for us with that rootstock. But we are doing some reflective fabric to color Honeycrisp. Probably a little bit slower to the game on that as some of the other areas. But we've tried it with some success, I think. But yeah, we're just, we're willing to try different things. We are looking into a orchard management system called Hector to kind of improve how we manage things on the orchard level. And they also have a system that utilizes kind of artificial intelligence to evaluate your fruit size distribution in a bin, and then you can take multiple pictures of bins of different lots of fruit, and then have an idea of what your fruit size distribution is. We are considering that as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
okay. A lot of stuff going on.
Always.
Thanks, Joe. And Dana, we'll close out with you. So what's ahead for for Peace Valley orchards in 2022?
Well, we had a typical Ohio spring where at the end of April we had 3.5 days of 80-degree weather, followed by 2 nights of 27. So we had just enough heat to bring the fruit out, and just enough cold to do damage to the blossoms. They probably did the most damage to the Gala crop. We, about 35 to 40% of our production is Gala, and we're still going to have a crop of Gala, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to chemically thin it because it took off all of the blossoms that were out, and then all we had left was the later blossoms. So they're not going to be as large fruit, and they're clustered all over the tree, so it's going to be hand thinning. Our Honeycrisp, Evercrisp, and some of the later blooming varieties were not damaged at all, and so that's going to affect quite a bit of the there's going to be an awful lot of hand thinning this summer. And unfortunately, as every fruit grower knows, labor is, chemicals are a lot cheaper than labor is at this point in time. We use H2A labor, and in Ohio, as opposed to some of the other states, it's $16 an hour wage. So that cuts in pretty hard into the bottom line. Aside from that, it's just a typical growing season in Ohio where, you fight the frost, then we have ample rain in the spring, but then in July you worry about, drought and hailstorms. So, we do have a New Zealand hail cannon that we have we don't have the hail nets, but we do have the hail cannon. And, we take it all as it comes. It's hopefully we get it all through because, as Joe said, the Honeycrisp are the crop that you want to bring off. If we could get the same money out of all the apples we get out of Honeycrisp, it would be a great day in the orchard industry. That's not quite the way it works. So, we're still working at it.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Thank you for that. So everyone, thank you all for your time in sharing your insights on quality advancements in the apple category. It's been a great conversation with unique perspectives from these leaders in the Pacific Northwest and Midwest. Thank you again, Art, Dano, and Joe. Next up is Mario Cervantes of Hazel Technologies, presenting on post-harvest solutions for apples. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mario Cervantes, Director of Business Development for AgTech at Hazel. I'm excited to be here with you today. Let's jump right in. Hazel came about in 2015 when Northwestern University PhD researchers found a new way to release active ingredients known to extend shelf life. The discovery of a proprietary time-release mechanism made these actives easy to use. In a nutshell, they found a new way to tackle and reduce food waste. Today, our technology is as simple as tossing it into the box. Our mission at Hazel continues to build around delivering cutting-edge products that extend the shelf life and improve the quality of food along the supply chain, all the way to the consumer. By the end of the year, Hazel will have been in use with almost 6 billion pounds of produce, keeping about 500 million from going to waste. For years, academia has shown strong anti-ethylene and antifungal efficacy with different active ingredients in produce. Yet for years, bringing them to commercial scale in the real world has been challenging. These actives, while commanding a strong safety precedent and not requiring consumer contact, required certain parameters for successful applications. By making these actives easy to use, they become compatible with many packing processes while achieving the desired objective, extending shelf life and reducing losses. Hazel is backed by the USDA. We've received $1.5 million in innovation grants via a very competitive process where a USDA technical committee assesses the efficacy as well as the novelty of the innovation. This process includes receiving letters of support from growers, shippers, and packers. Our commitment to the industry stems from our academic roots, which today we keep growing. We've worked with prestigious institutions in agriculture across the Americas, including UC Davis, Cornell, Oregon State, University of Florida in the US, as well as INEA and Universidad Católica in Chile, just to name a few. Our quick growth in just a few years comes from partnerships with the industry's most dynamic growers, packers, shippers, importers, and food service organizations, making better arrivals, reducing adjustments, having a longer time to enjoy a nice, crunchy apple at home makes for a better consumer eating experience and greater returns across the supply chain. We're excited to continue supporting our partners in apples, as well as the dozen or so commodities we work in today. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our USA team of Apple professionals. In the East, Joe Parker works with our friends from New England down through Appalachia, Virginia, and the Carolinas. Heading to the Midwest, Eli Cannell covers our Great Lakes region, the third coast, as they say, home to our product managers, John Kletcha and Alex Brown. Crossing the Rockies to the great state of California, Adam Hadley not only enjoys the sun, he helps packers make good arrivals year-round. And last but not least, I'm thrilled to give a shout out to our Pacific Northwest team, going from the Dalles through Yakima, Wenatchee, and Brewster to the Canadian border. Industry veterans Tyson Cuthbert, Dr. Enrique Garcia, and Deidre Baumgarten. I've had the pleasure of working with each one. I'm tremendously proud of these individuals, and even more, if you haven't already, I'm thrilled for you to meet them. Our flagship, easy-to-use technology, Hazel 100, is made from food-grade Tyvek and works just by tossing it into the packed case or into the apple bin. Just toss it in as soon as it comes in from the orchard into the cold storage, and you're done. It's that easy, literally. For quick release, 1-MCP in traditional sealed environments, we offer a proprietary, easy-to-assemble self-application technology known as Hazel CA. in conjunction with our quick electronic verification with our proprietary Hazel Datica unit, quickly collecting and transmitting data to ensure a successful quick release application. Let's look at the real world use and results for our bin sachets. Last year, we worked with our friends at Seisha Orchards in Galesville, Wisconsin, and carried out a trial with treated and untreated fruit. All fruit was held in regular cold storage without controlled atmosphere for 30, 60, and 90 days, followed by 0, 7, 10, and 14 days at ambient temperature. Key metrics such as ethylene and firmness were monitored at each point. Here are the results. On the x-axis, we can see the 30, 60, and 90 days in cold storage in bold with the 0, 7, 10, and 14 days following an ambient storage after each cold storage period. Note on the y-axis, we have ethylene production in microliters per kilogram hour. The trend, see for yourself when fruit comes out of cold storage. A higher temperature causes a huge spike in ethylene in the control group, represented by the black line across each and every cold storage period. It peaks at day 7. This burst of ethylene triggers the fruit to continue the senescence or ripening process as a result of a direct increased presence of ethylene in the environment. In contrast, across all time points, the Hazel treated fruit remained flat in ethylene production. This shows the efficacy of an easy to use, just toss it in the bin sachet application is indeed synonymous with a successful 1-MTP treatment. It consistently and effectively suppresses ethylene production in apples. The goal of suppressing ethylene production is to keep the fruit firmer for longer so that the consumer can enjoy a crunchy apple at home. And this is exactly what we find. Hazel treated fruit was firmer after 30, 60, and 90 days, showing that well after harvest, packers can have the peace of mind that their customers will be able to enjoy a crunchier, flavorful apple even after more than a few days on the countertop. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. I am looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much for your time.